Guys, how we doing? Good. Questions?
They've been pretty solid so far, numbers distance-wise, punting this year. You guys obviously.
Could you start over? I just heard you said they.
USC. Yeah, the team you're playing this week.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said.
All good. Distance-wise, they've been pretty consistent punting. They've been a little susceptible to returns. You guys have had a little bit of a revolving door back there for a number of reasons. How confident are you in that group, and do you see opportunity for big plays there this week?
Yeah, their punter does a nice job. There's sometimes where he'll out-punt his coverage from a distance standpoint. We anticipate to have Zion back there. He's done a nice job. We think he's got big play potential, but it'll be a really good opportunity for him on Saturday.
James, Alonzo Ford's a guy you referred to as a pleasant surprise. Curious how you'd evaluate his play through 5 games?
Yeah, he's done a nice job. I know Dion has been very, very impressed with him, and so is the coaching staff. He's been a great teammate. He's taken advantage of the reps that he's getting and getting better. I think he's, in some ways, up to this point, he probably was still working back into play shape. Hadn't played football in a while. Had a pretty significant injury, so I think he's getting better every single week. So we've been very pleased with him.
James, will you be able to double dip a little bit and do some recruiting out there? I know you have some commits and probably some guys you might like to look at, and how we get around out there if you're doing that, because it can be kind of complicated.
Yeah, so we're gonna handle this Friday like we've been handling all these other Fridays. I'll typically go out in the morning, and then get back with the team, and then go back out again at night. So we'll treat it just like we've been doing up to this point.
James, Dom came back, started last week, but it seemed like he had a limited workload. Do you anticipate him taking another step forward in his involvement on defense?
Yeah, you just when you're in one of those casts, it affects you, obviously. So getting comfortable with that, getting used to that. I thought he did a nice job last week, but I expect him to work closer towards. I don't know if it'll be exactly the same number of reps, but probably in between what he did last week and what he's done in the past. But he's shown he was physical on kickoff, was good on defense as well. So I think he has more confidence in playing that way, and I think the coaches have confidence in him being able to get the job done.
James, you mentioned briefly Miller Moss Monday. His completion percentage, touchdown to interception ratio stuck out to you. What do you think it is that he does well as a quarterback that allows him to have that success, and thus what makes him a challenge to prepare for defensively?
Well, I think the head coach does a really good job and has done a good job for a long time in terms of offense and scoring points and producing yards. And I think here's a guy that I think did it the right way, right? He committed to USC. He committed to USC. Was behind, the first pick in the draft. Stuck it out, kept learning, got into the bowl game and played really well. And he knows the system, and he's prepared, and he's ready to go. He can distribute the ball to his playmakers. They have playmakers. One of the more talented rosters that we've played this year. But he's kind of, in my mind, he's like your typical West Coast quarterback that knows how to distribute the ball. He's poised, he's calm, he's confident, he's accurate. He understands the system, he has confidence in the system, and is playing really well for him. So I've been impressed with him and impressed with the system.
James, how do you assess A.J. Harris's play so far this season?
Yeah, I think A.J.'s playing really well. He's a super competitive guy. Football's really important to him. I think he's really embraced our culture. We've had a ton of good discussions with really all the transfers, with talking about kind of some of the similarities and some of the differences of being here. But he's been great. Excuse me, I apologize. He's been great, and I think he's playing really well. He's getting more and more confident each week. And I think Terry's doing a good job. We're playing a number of guys, at the corner position.
Hey, James, if you notice a trend that you feel like you could take advantage of against an opponent, but it doesn't necessarily fit what you've been doing so far, how do you attack without changing what you're doing or changing your identity on offense or defense?
Yeah, I don't think you do that. I don't know specifically what you're referencing, but I think that's where you have to be careful. If it's something you can do to attack a weakness or attack a scheme that fits in with things that you are already doing, then obviously you're going to do it. But to try to kind of recreate yourself in a week, that's difficult to do, and I think that could be problematic. But that's also where you want to have enough diversity within your system on offense and defense that more times than not you can take advantage of it.
Friday's typically your travel day. What will Friday look like for the team out there?
So it will be similar. Well, that's really kind of why we're doing this. We're just trying to keep our routine as similar as we possibly can. So we'll do a Fast Friday. A big part of that was finding a location that we felt comfortable having that type of practice, because on Friday we do a lot of our game plan specific stuff. So being able to get into SoFi Stadium was very, very helpful, and being able to keep our routine the same. So pretty much very similar to what we would do here, obviously. Or maybe it's probably better to say more of a traditional away game is probably the best way to say it.
James, in games that have involved the team making a 2-time zone jump, the visiting team is 1-8 in those games. Do you think there's anything else that could be going into that rather than just the long travel?
Yeah, I was hoping that nobody would bring that up. We're not focused on that or talking about that or concerned about that. We're focused on what we have to do, Penn State, to handle our business. But yeah, we're not talking about that.
James, how is Anthony Donko handling this week of practice, and Nolan Rucci getting that extended work last week? What did you see from him playing more than he ever did at Wisconsin? So I'm sure you're getting a good evaluation here.
Yeah, obviously you guys know we've been very, very pleased with Anthony, and we anticipate having him on Saturday. Rucci has been able to play and play well, allow us to continue to do what we want to do on offense. I think he's gaining confidence and getting more comfortable, but that depth is important. We're going to have bumps and bruises throughout the year, but we've been pleased with Donka really since the bowl game. And Rucci was a nice piece of the puzzle to bring in, and he'll continue to have a significant role for us moving forward.
Is that helpful going forward when you talk to players in the transfer portal saying, hey, even if there's not an obvious opening for you here, you can play at a place like Penn State because of situations like that?
Yes, but as you can imagine, the guys that we want to recruit, they see themselves as starters. They're not coming in for a depth deal. So more times than not, I don't know if that's something we would sell, but an opportunity to come in and compete. As you know, whether it's high school or transfers, we don't ever promise or offer starting roles. They're going to have to come in and earn it and compete. The good thing is most of those guys are all playing and playing significant roles for us, so that's been good.
James, to stick with that offensive line, obviously you've talked very highly in the past of Frank Leonard, but it's pretty hard for us to not take note of him out there ever since the analyst has been let back on the field. What's his presence been like, and how is it held?
It's loud. His presence is loud. Frank's been great. He really has. He's old school. He's really kind of like yin and yang. Trout is very kind of soft-spoken. I wouldn't say soft-spoken, but more measured is probably a good word. And I think from just an approach standpoint, you really have total opposites. So I think they're really good complementary pieces of each other. I think the fact that those two have history before, and Frank coached Trout, I think that's helped. There's trust between those two guys in the room. Frank is very, very respectful of Trout and his position, and Trout as well to Frank based on their history and his knowledge. So I think they complement each other really well. And Frank he's got a unique way to get after guys and coach them hard, but he loves them and they love him. I think that's been a real positive for us, and also just an experienced coach who's coached in the NFL, coached in major college football, and obviously we go back a long way. So the fact that we go back a long ways and he goes back a long ways with Trout, I think that's